wrong. If you think about it, we're in the middle of a crisis, and if you're not feeling those things, that would be more of a cause for concern. So if you're feeling low, feeling sad, feeling anxious, it's what you call a normal reaction to an abnormal situation. So it is a 100% normal and a sign that you are emotionally healthy to be feeling those things. If we weren't in the middle of the COVID-19 and you were feeling those things, then that's different. Okay, that's an abnormal reaction to a normal situation. So just to put people's mind at ease, it's not problematic to be feeling what you're feeling. It is a very normal emotional reaction. So has anyone ever seen the film 28 Days Later?
Yes.
You know, the zombie apocalypse, Cillian Murphy?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Remember the one? So in that film, he wakes up, doesn't he? He wakes up and finds himself in hospital, looks around. There's not a person around. There's nothing going on. It's completely silent. And then he goes for a bit of a stroll. You know, he's got one of those dressing gowns on where your bum hangs out the back in hospital. Never known why they make them like that. Why don't they put a zip on the back? And there's a point where he's on Westminster Bridge and he looks around and there's not a person in sight. There's no vehicles or anything. It's just a few bits of litter on the floor and him. And if you've ever been to Westminster Bridge, you'll know it's never, ever like that. And as the film progresses, he has to orient himself to his situation and adapt very quickly in order to survive, in order to stay alive. And I think there's a bit of a parallel between that and our current situation, because for a lot of us, it's as if we've woken up one day and everything seems to be completely different. We're not going out. We're just stuck at home around with our families. And it's easy to see how, for some people, they're sinking. But for other people, they're swimming. Just like Lex said about, you know, some people are seeing an opportunity to learn new things, whereas some people are just completely crumbling. So what I want to talk to you about today is about how to stay sane during the lockdown. And I want to talk to you about, I guess, what I'm going to call the 5 sanity factors. And if you can manage these 5 things throughout the current period, you're going to put yourself in a better position psychologically. So just to start, let's get the chat zone heated up. What do you guys think might be some of these 5 sanity factors? Just throw any answers into the chat box. What are some of these 5 sanity factors you think we should look out for? We've got energy levels, we've got staying in contact with people, we've got gratitude. Excellent. Any others? Humor. Getting engaged with someone. Oh, sorry, Jackie. Getting engaged in something you like, or with someone you like. Even meditation. Brilliant. Okay, yeah. Avoiding drama. Hairs on the palm of your hand. Not sure what that one's about, Russell. We'll go into that in a moment. I've got a razor you can borrow if you need one. We've got a diet on there as well. Okay, brilliant. So thanks, guys. Yeah, we've got some good ideas down there, and there's so many right ones on there. I'm just going to give you 5 of these key factors, and these things that universally are seen to be some of the most overwhelming, or some people like to use the word stress. I prefer not to use that term because I think it's a bit of a meaningless word, but some of the most overwhelming things that can happen in your life, okay? Or a lack of things. So I'm going to talk to you about sanity factor number 1 then. When I first finished university, I got a job for Coventry Building Society, working in a contact centre, doing mortgages online. And one day the management came into us and said, right, here you go, guys, have these brochures. We're renovating and decorating the contact centre, and we want you guys to choose the furniture. And we were like, yeah, really? And they were completely serious. They let us choose what we wanted from all of the brochures. And we ended up with a contact centre that was nice and bright green and purple and nice and vibrant. It was really, really cool. And we felt amazing. We all felt really engaged, and we felt like we were masters of our own destiny because we'd been able to make this monumentous decision. But if you think about it, who was really in control? Because this is sanity factor number 1. It's feeling in control of your situation and your destiny. But in that situation, who really had control? Did we have control? Or did the managers have control? Because who chose the brochures?
They did.
Exactly. So this is sanity factor number 1. It's a feeling that you're in control of your own destiny. But I want to put an addendum on that. It's not necessarily just control. It's the perception that you're in control. Because in my call center, we had the perception of control. It wasn't real control. And this is one of the most important things to not feeling overwhelmed. Has anyone heard of Martin Seligman?
No.
Yep. So Sarah, you've heard of him. He's the godfather of the positive psychology movement. And he coined a term, learned helplessness. And learned helplessness is all about when we're in a situation that we want to be different and that we're really trying to control, but we have no control over, and end up giving up and resigning ourselves. And it's this learned helplessness that is behind a lot of physical and emotional problems. So if we're trying to control things we have no control over, eventually we give up and become helpless, and that's the problematic phase. Think about it like this. You know, if you fall into a river and you're getting pulled downstream, the person who's trying to control that situation and fight against it tries to swim back upstream and ends up using up all their energy and probably drowns because they're just fighting against a pointless cause. The smart person understands the situation and lets the current carry them downstream temporarily until they can see a branch to pull themselves out on. That person is using acceptance. The first person is just trying to fight against a pointless situation. So have a think then. First question, first thing I want you to scribble down. What sort of things could you take control of in this situation that you're not controlling? And by the way, the only things you can control are your own thoughts, words, and actions. Or are there any things that you're trying to control that you can't, that you should be letting go of? So just take a moment, just scribble anything down. Is there something you're trying to control that you shouldn't be? Or is there something you could control that you aren't? And you won't need to share these. These are just for your own personal thoughts, because I'm going to ask you to act on these things at the end of this session.
Stop whispering.
Akeem said trying to control his wife. Well, exactly. That's a key thing. Has anyone ever read Stephen Covey's 7 Habits?
Yes.
Okay, so this is one of the key things, the circles of control he talks about. So Akeem, your wife would go in the indirect control circle. That's someone you'd have to use influence. So if your family around you are winding you up, you can't control them, but you can influence them. All right. And if things outside this, like COVID-19, you've got no control over it. So the best thing to do for your psychological well-being is accept the way it is right now and allow it to run its course until there's a way to get out of it. Don't fight against it. It's like being a Cobblers fan and really hoping your team will win every weekend. You've got no control over it, and it probably won't happen anyway, so just let it go. So that's sanity factor number 1 is control. Let's move sanity factor number 2 now. My mum lives on her own, and just recently my brother was moving down to London, and he went to stay with my mum for a couple of weeks while he was sorting out his flat in London. And this is when the COVID-19 thing kicked in, and he had to stay with my mum. Poor fella. And what this has done, though, this has been a godsend for my mum, because my mum worries like crazy. She's got this thing about sinkholes appearing in her garden, although none of them ever arrived. If there's something to worry about, my mum will worry about it. But having my brother there has been really useful for her to keep her in check with all of her thoughts. Just like when Lex was talking about us catastrophizing. My mum is a world champion, Olympic gold medalist catastrophizer. But having my brother there to rein her in has been really important. So this is sanity factor number 2, support networks. Okay? Because isolation during these sort of times, having no one around us that we can confide in, not even just them being there for us in a physical sense, but to reach out to, that we can confide in and have them listen to us, is really important. Because too much time on your own is never a good thing. If you've got a negative tendency to your mind or a tendency to ruminate, too much time on our own is not a good thing, because we are naturally connection seeking beings. We naturally crave connection with yourself through spirituality, connection with others, connecting with nature and animals, whatever it is, we crave connection. So my second question to you is, and I want you to scribble down some answers and even shout some things out. What creative ways have you either seen or used to stay connected with others? And I'll give you a couple of examples. A friend of mine, Andy, does an e-quiz for his family every Friday night. He also does an e-pint with his friends. They all open up a can and then just log on to Zoom on a Saturday night. So what creative ways have you guys used or seen of staying connected?
We have a cocktail hour with friends on a Saturday night. I've seen more of them than I've seen in donkey's years. But we do that.
E-cocktail nights?
Well, we call it a cocktail hour. We have whatever you fancy, really. But that's
brilliant.
The idea. Yeah. Sometimes brilliant. In the garden, sometimes in the house. We tend, this is the bar,
Are you the e-barmaid?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So yes, things like that. E-quizzes, e-cocktails, you name it. What about anyone else? Anyone else got anything?
On a Friday night, with my running group, we have a Zoom bar. So
Really?
yeah.
Not a Doom bar.
No, it's a Zoom bar, and every Friday night at 8 o'clock, we all dial into Zoom and get slaughtered,
Right.
for want of a better expression. But with my kids, neither of my kids live at home, and I'm used to seeing them an awful lot, so not seeing them has been tricky. But we have weekly Facebook video chats.
Brilliant.
So we're keeping in contact with each other.
Excellent. So guys, there's so many ways you can do it, and I think the only limitations are your creativity. And clearly, we're all creative people. We've got loads of ideas. E-quizzes, whatever, you name it. E-dating, e-affairs we had earlier as well, didn't we? Or e-tantra with Jackie. A bit of e-tantra. That's the Sting's new version.
You can also have Discord servers as well. Discord is quite used in the gaming community, and so
Okay.
for groups, and that's quite a good one.
Yeah, because I guess we're probably learning a lot from the gaming community at the moment, aren't we? They do this all the time. But the only thing is, when the lockdown's gone, they still won't be leaving their bedrooms. That's all. So we've looked at the first two sanity factor. Number one was control. So we need to make sure we have control or perception of control of our situation. The second one is support networks. Now the third sanity factor. Hands up, who's into horror films?
I quite like horror.
Yeah. Oh, I've been watching on YouTube loads of classic horror. All the Peter Cushing, Christopher Lee. They're all out there.
God, I remember them as a kid. Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant. I love horrors. So imagine you're watching a horror film, and then you're in the film. You can feel the tension rising a little bit, and then something's about to happen in a moment. And just on that point on the screen, you see a subtitle arrive on the bottom of the screen. It says, in 20 seconds, a man wearing a mask is going to jump out from behind that wardrobe with an axe and attack the two girls. How scary. And then 20 seconds later, all lo and behold, a man jumps out in 20 seconds with an axe and attacks the two girls. And this theme carries on throughout the film. Just about something's about to happen, a subtitle appears on the screen and warns you of what's going to happen. How scary would that horror film be?
No, it wouldn't.
Pointless. You'd kill the horror genre, because what makes horror scary is it's not knowing what's happening, and also you don't know when it's going to happen. That's what's scary.
In the old Hammer films, they used to put warnings on the screen. If you
Trigger warning.
Those old films, they'd say, "Don't look now. If you don't like blood, don't look now." They used to do that, but in the first releases, yeah.
Trigger warnings.
What do you always do when somebody tells you not to do something, though?
Exactly.
Of course, you all fixed.
So this is sanity factor number 3. Then it's predictability, because when we don't know what's coming, it has a worse psychological impact on us. As soon as we know what's coming, it takes the fears away. So think of it in this current situation with the lockdown. A lot of the time we don't know what's coming. So it's about, and that's what makes it scary for a lot of people. It's the unpredictability. And yes, we can go down one route of constantly watching news after news after news, which is what my mum does, and it just makes her feel more anxious. And I think Lex mentioned this before. Over-consuming news isn't a good thing, because the news's job is to make us watch more news. So they're going to sensationalize things. So this, for me, the question on the unpredictability thing is then, what are you guys doing to increase make it things more predictable for you? Because we need to know what's coming. That reduces the shock factor, but we don't want to overdo it. So I want to hand it over to you. What are you guys doing to make things as predictable as possible?
I'm accepting the fact that I'm unlikely to be going back to work anytime before the end of May.
Okay, so being more, like we talked about, the person jumping in the river, waiting for that branch to arrive. Okay.
But when the government do their next review on the 7th, I'm foreseeing it is going to be extended. So when it comes to the 7th, I'm not like, oh my God, here we go again.
Yes.
It's like, if they say we can go back to work earlier than that, fabulous. But I'm trying to predict that they are going to extend it until at least the end of May. So mentally in my head, I've already got that, oh, okay, that's the way it's going to be.
Yes. What's that saying? Is it expect the best but plan for the worst?
Yes, yeah. I think we're doing the same, because obviously the future toolbox part of our business, we've gone in and we've been delivering face-to-face sessions with schools. So we've having to radically rethink everything. And there is a little bit of talk of seeing about schools, but it's not going to happen. We are not going to get school bookings. We're not expecting it anytime this year, I'll be quite honest. I don't think, because even if the schools go back in September, they've got so much to do. So what we're doing is we're working on doing webinars and stuff like that. So what we're trying to, the predictability of what we're doing is knowing that's not going to be that is not our norm anymore. And creating our new normal of this is what it's going to be, and also trying to, I think Lex, you spoke about it, is trying to sort out a kind of like a routine every day and make sure we try and eat at the same time, and we eat together, and then we stop working and we have some us time, don't we? So making sure, and that for us, that predictability of knowing that it's I don't know, whatever time it is, it's dinner time, I
think that's really important, because and linking into what Lex said about this routine, the brain loves routine. So if you suddenly start shocking your routine by going to bed at different times, getting up at different times, you're throwing yourself out, and it means the brain has to do more work. But the mind likes to be able to ramp down and conserve energy, and routine is a way for it to conserve energy. So I think the more predictable you can make your day, do your exercise at the same time, get up at the same time, wear the clothes you would wear for work, just like all the stuff Lex was saying. It's absolutely right. Giving yourself that predictability, you're minimizing the shock factor, the monster jumping out from behind the wardrobe. You're giving yourself those little subtitle warnings as well. So that's key. So that's sanity factor number 3. Number 4 then, hands up who's seen The Shining, that classic Stephen King film. Brilliant. You know that Stephen King wrote that. I think he actually went to that hotel. I think he wrote it based on his own problems with alcoholism as well. But that's another story anyway, alcoholism. We'll come to that in a moment. But in that film, Jack Nicholson, he's a caretaker of a hotel out in Colorado, and he's snowed in for the winter with just his wife and his son, and he loses his mind. Probably being snowed in with your wife and kids is probably enough to make anyone go crazy anyway. But he's snowed in with them. Admittedly, the hotel was haunted, so that might have a bit to do with it. But it kind of has a bit of parallel again to the situation that many of us are in, because we're in this situation where we're working from home. I know for a lot of us self-employed people, we were doing that anyway, but then we're stuck in the house with our families, where usually we might have been able to get out and about and get away from them a bit. And we're having a bit of a build-up of tension, a bit of a build-up of pressure in our minds, in our bodies. And pressure's a good thing, clearly. Pressure's a very healthy thing. But when it gets to a point where there's a bit too much tension in our minds and bodies, it can be problematic. And many of us are reaching for, come on, hands up, who's guilty? Yep, stop pretending, Jules. Oh yeah, I wonder what that was. Oh, is that alcohol?
I couldn't see what it was.
So
I know that bottle.
Well, many of us are reaching for this stuff then, and as a pressure outlet. This is the 4th sanity factor. We talk about pressure outlets, and the easiest one to reach for is alcohol, because when you drink alcohol, your brain releases a neurotransmitter called GABA. Okay, and what GABA does, it soothes us. It soothes and calms the mind. And in America, people buy it as an anti-anxiety supplement, but you can't buy it in the UK. And what this GABA does, it soothes the mind and calms and brings us down. But it only lasts for an hour. That effect of GABA only lasts for 1 hour. So an hour later, what do we need? Another glass of wine. You need another drink. Exactly. And so on. It can become a bit of a slippery slope. So in terms of managing the 4th sanity factor, pressure outlets, we need to find healthy ways to unplug our kettle, because we're like a kettle. When you leave your finger on the button, it will just boil and boil and boil and steam over until the kettle breaks. So we need an outlet for that. And when we're not using this is nice as a treat, but it's not nice as a crutch, because you build up a tolerance to it, obviously. One of the most proven things as a pressure outlet, one of the most proven things is movement. Physical movement to defuse at the end of a day. So what I want to ask you guys, what creative methods could you use or are you using to unplug your kettles, to defuse at the end of the day? Because you've got things like yoga. I'm into a bit of this. I like to box, and I'll go out into the garden. I've got my skipping rope out there. I've got a punch bag and stuff. But for me, shadow boxing at the end of the day, Just going out and do it 5 minutes completely diffuses, and it's all gone, and I'm just ready to chill out or hang out for the evening without needing to rely on any alcohol. If I want to have a beer, I'll have one, but I'm not needing to have a beer. So what about you guys? What sort of ways could you use that are fun? Even dancing around your kitchen to a bit of 80s music, it doesn't matter. Or to a bit of Sting, Jackie, if you're...
Oh, yeah, that'd be better. Yeah.
So what ways could you guys use to defuse at the end of the day that involve movement?
So I do lots of dancing because I used to go to, but it was called like Freedom Dance Group. So you're not given the steps, but you're given guidance how to move your body.
Okay.
And I also do lots of work around moving, dancing, moving your body, and then exploring your connection with your body through colors and working with your body and oil pastels, which sounds very strange, but it's a medium where you have to put lots of pressure to get that on paper. So that works for me quite well. Even if I'm set for like a painting evening, I dance and move a lot before I started, because then that pressure is off and I'm able to go into my zone.
Brilliant. Maybe some of the guys in the group could join in on some of your sessions. Could we have a Zoom dance off or something like that, do you think?
Yeah.
I did that with, I mean, not me, I did it as a learner with the group where I used to belong, because they moved online as well. It's a very strange experience because everyone is dancing in their own room.
Yeah.
So very strange, I don't know. So interesting.
That sounds brilliant. Thank you. How about anyone else? What else have you guys got? Because that's the thing, we get to the end of the day, that kettle's been boiling all day. We need a way to unplug it. So what could you guys do, or are you doing?
My running group has set us a challenge. So it started nearly 2 weeks ago, and the challenge was to either run or walk. Well, it's running either 1K a day, a minimum, or walking at a minimum of 2K a day. And each week there's a different theme. So this week the theme is, with the maps that we create with our walks or runs, they've got to be creative and paint a picture or something. And I think next week our challenge is to do it in fancy dress.
Really?
Yeah. And we have to provide evidence, and at the end of it, whoever has gone the longest with their streak wins a prize.
Really?
I am just so competitive. As soon as I said prize, I'm like, right, I'm in it. I'm doing it.
Emma, go dressed as one of the cobblers. That'll make everyone laugh.
Could you post your evidence on our group?
But I'll see.
So guys, if you think so this is the thing. And it's really important to have something that you position at the end of your day, just something that gets you moving. You'll be amazed at the impact this can have. And then if you still want the glass of wine, that's more of a treat as opposed to a necessity or a crutch to help us diffuse at the end of the day. So the final factor then, the final one I want to talk to you guys about, it's sanity factor number 5 then. And have you ever been in a situation where you're going on holiday in a couple of days, you've got a holiday booked in, let's say it's Wednesday or Thursday, and a couple of things come up that would usually really get you back up. People do stuff that would annoy you, or someone just does something. Are you pointing to them, Cecile? Is that... Someone does something that would usually wind you up, but because you've got your holiday booked in, it's water off a duck's back, because come Saturday morning, you'll be sat by the pool sipping a cocktail in your Speedos or your bikini. You're going to be on holiday, so those things don't bother you. This is a key factor in what I'm talking about here, because having something positive on your horizon helps you to handle life more effectively. Okay, sanity factor number 5, it's a positive future outlook. So whilst at the moment we can't all have a holiday to Benidorm or 2 weeks in Ibiza to look forward to, what we can do is put small little micro horizons in front of us, things to look forward to that are going to pull us through the week. So for example, it was my girlfriend's birthday the other day, and I gave her a little voucher that said she's entitled to a massage. Now, it's not something I'm looking forward to, but it's something that she's looking forward to. But it's something that's apologies, my dogs are going crazy here. Something to look forward to that's going to help you get through the week. So what little micro horizons could you guys lay out for yourselves? What do you think?
What I actually have one, and it happens every Friday at 1 o'clock. And it's with Sarah when she does our mindfulness.
Yes.
She does something to me, she resets me, and I feel fine for the rest of the week. And
that's
my positivity, because I think if I'm starting to get stressed or things are getting to me, in my head I think that hour's going to put me together again, you know. So for me, that's fine. Yeah.
Perfect. So that's your micro horizon. Anyone else got any, maybe even the ones you're not doing that you would, maybe things you've thought now you'd like to put in place?
Well, I've started, I used to go to a gym in Northampton when I lived there, PTS, some of you might know it, Ali runs it.
They sponsor the Cobblers.
Just like the football team.
No idea. So basically I'm now going there virtually because, and that's absolutely brilliant. So at 7 o'clock every morning, I know there's a class, 10 o'clock in the morning, I know there's a class, and 6 o'clock in the evening. Excellent. Class. Fantastic. So that's means that I know that I can get my heart racing, and yeah.
Perfect. Because that's it. It's just having these things that to look forward to that pull us through the day. I mean, not that we want to come to be too outside the present moment, because, you know, the present moment's the rich and rewarding place to be. But having little things to look forward to can help us when we maybe have those little moments like Lex said, where the mind gets a bit negative. But then if you think, well, actually, I'm feeling a bit low today, but I know I've got Sarah's mindfulness session to look forward to later. And that will just pull our mind out of that little dip and put us into a more positive place. So those are the 5 sanity factors then. We had control over your situation. We had support networks. We had predictability. We had pressure outlets. And then the final one was having a positive future outlook, those micro horizons. So I just want to finish up by asking you guys, what one thing could you do differently then? Maybe if just one of the two of you want to shout, based on the things you've written down as we've gone through the 5 sanity factors, what just give us a few shout outs of things that you could just start doing differently after this session today.
Change the end of day.
So getting to the end of the day?
Changing what to do at the end of the day.
Okay, so what would you change, David?
Well, we started doing Tai Chi lessons just before the lockdown. So I guess this is an opportunity to really get the DVD out and keep going on the Tai Chi. So when it's lockdown is finished, we impress our teacher.
Excellent. Excellent. Nice one, David. Thank you. Anybody else? Come on, guys, be brave. Jackie, what are you going to do? A bit of E-Tantra.
Yeah, I'll Google some tantric sex and see what comes up. Yeah.
Okay, maybe we could have a group E session, could we? Maybe a mass group for that. A group E Tantra. And then some mindfulness afterwards. Okay, so guys, I think that's my sort of 25 minutes up there. So I'm going to hand back over to Mark and Jules, but I just want to finish up by saying, coming back to what I said at the start, if you are feeling sad, low, anxious at the moment, remember, this is a sign of emotional well-being, because it's a normal reaction to an abnormal situation. So I just want to leave you with that and keep that in mind. So thanks for listening, guys. And I'll hand you back over to Mark and Jules. Thank you.